Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Welcome back, everybody, to another show of The People's View. It's my special guest today is going to be Senator Gary Lambert. Of course, alongside always is Carl Seidel. And we're going to kind of go through what we've been doing. We had the speaker yesterday. Carl had the privilege of having him in here. I had to go and fight for redistricting, so that'll be another story we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's always good to bring back a recap of what took place. And I know it was a big part of the senator's campaign, so I saw him working down the street and banging on doors. And what do you think so far?
Well, I've had a great time, Pete. Like I tell everybody, it's been more fun than I thought it was going to be when I got up there. Because, quite frankly, this was my first foray into politics. You folks are veterans.
Yeah, one term.
So, yeah, well, you know, one more term than me.
Yeah.
So I really had no idea what to expect. And then, of course, there's always those who try to scare you and say, "Oh, your life is about to change," and it did, but for the better. And fortunately, I've got a great family. I've got a great bunch of associates at the law firm, and I was able to balance everything pretty well, and just had a fantastic time. Got an absolutely great education on how the state works, which I think is the #1 benefit to this job.
Well, you deserve working hard to get upset a veteran that was in the place before, and I think you could tell us how you like your first year. What do you think you accomplished?
Like I said, it's been a blast. I think we've done a lot of wonderful things. It's been a great group of people up there. All the freshmen have been great. The leadership, Senator Bragdon, has just been fantastic and very accommodating. I mean, he realizes, I think there's 8 of us freshmen who have businesses to run in addition to being a state senator. So he's very accommodating and very efficient and organized with respect to sessions, caucus meetings, as well as committee meetings. I'll give you, for example, I guess in times past, and I'm talking about Republican or Democrat, in times past, 10 o'clock session meant 11 o'clock, 11:30, going until midnight. And now, like I tell people, if you want to come up, you better be there at 10, because at 10:01 you're going to be late, because the gavel comes down at 10. And sometimes we're done by noon, 1 o'clock, and I have yet to be there past 5 o'clock.
That's how it ought to be.
That's how it ought to be.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Peter.
You know, Carl, I like to do this little thing we call it like our civics corner, because a lot of people don't understand how the whole thing works. They know now enough that there's 400 state reps, which is the largest in the country. But I believe it's the second smallest Senate, not the smallest. I think.
Geez, I thought it was the smallest.
It's #1 or #2.
Yeah. Yep.
So why don't we tell people how the Senate works? There's 24 of you, and you are in charge. So you have more than one committee you're on.
I do. And there are standing committees, and then there's other committees. I can't even begin to count all the committees and commissions you get put on. And, you know, and quite honestly, you almost can't do it all. You got to do what you can. And the major committees, you always attend them. I mean, I believe I have a 100% record at all of them, as well as my votes on the Senate floor. I've been to every single vote. So there's certain things you have to prioritize. So I am on the 3 major committees that every senator is on. Every senator has 3 major committees. I am on Energy and Natural Resources, which is my favorite one. Then Health and Human Services, which is okay.
That's a big one too.
It is a big one, and it's very important. And certainly it wasn't my first choice, but I'm having a lot of fun and I'm learning a lot. And then there's a new committee that was just created this year, which I'm on, and I'm the vice chair of, and that's Internal Affairs. And Internal Affairs, you might think, deals with corruption or some type of matters like that, but it's everything that doesn't get put into another committee. Like constitutional issues will end up there. Redistricting, which is what we're going to be dealing with, will come up there. So anything that doesn't fit in some of those other committees will come to us.
On redistricting, so is that, like we have a committee, I'm on the committee. Are all of you on redistricting, or just is there a committee for that too?
There is only the Internal Affairs Committee, of which every committee has 5 senators. Only that committee will be dealing with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we'll be caucusing about it. There's 19 Republican senators, so we'll definitely caucus about it. We're probably going to caucus about that the first of the year. And then sometime after that...
Do you have lawyers helping you with the legal aspect of redistricting?
Right. Now, like I said, you guys are veterans, and I know we all haven't been through the last redistricting process, but I guess that was quite the fight. And quite, we're anticipating that there'll probably be a court challenge on this. So we're doing everything right. And so we've got the lawyers involved, but the census shows us that things have changed, and so we're required by law to change things. And I know you folks will be doing the same in the House.
Yeah, we passed our bill on Tuesday. So now that'll go to the House. I'm not even sure what the date is, to be honest, when it's going to go to the House, but I think I was telling you off the air, I got 2 letters today, one from Manchester, one from Peterborough, that nobody likes the plan unless it's, fits them. The problem is when you fix them, then you
turn somebody else out. I mean, that's one
Exactly.
of the big problems with floatorials as a whole. In order to keep a balance in the float, you have to give each participating entity about the same number of voters. Otherwise, it's lopsided, and somebody has too many votes and will dominate that float.
So you guys have a heck of a problem, not a problem, but really a lot of hard work was put into your redistricting plan because you're trying to get everybody equal access to their reps, and some towns don't get as many as others, and it's not like the senatorial districts. We try to divide them up 65,000 or so per. But you guys really have a task, and nobody's going to be happy.
The thing someone brought it up Tuesday at the meeting. The rule that they changed, the biggest thing that they changed in 2006 is that cities are no longer recognized as cities. They're just, the wards are, so everything is a ward essentially. A town's a ward, and the city's broken up. So Nashua really, for redistricting purposes, is 9 wards, not a city. The part that's strange is that in Nashua, originally, if you took each individual ward, they all qualify for 3 reps under the new plan. But if you take the city and put it together, then you lose a rep. It's really weird how it works out. So,
but they're all within that plus or minus 5% of the 3291.
Right.
But they're on the minus side. Except
I
think one ward might have just on the plus side of that average. So it is something that I think our city clerk, Bergeron, did a good job for the aldermen that they have to, and it just worked out that it's better for us to keep those 9 wards with 3 reps apiece. Manchester didn't quite work out the same. Manchester's a lot larger, a lot more diverse, and just to be able to get the organization of those entities as close to that 3291 per representative had to be paired up with somebody outside the city, which is something that we fought hard not to avoid, because that was one possibility for Nashua also.
Right.
now does the Senate do the same way? Is it the same parameters that we have to be under? So because you guys you go through, some of you, several towns.
Right.
Right now, Senator Luther has Hollis.
Right.
And part of Nashua.
Part of Nashua, Brookline, and Mason.
Right.
I believe right now, and I remember looking into this, so I think I'm 99% I'm 99% sure that I'm correct. I am the only senator that has, at least I have part of Nashua, but I'm the only senator that has just a city. All the other senators, like Manchester's been divided up, Concord's been divided up, but I'm the only senator right now that has just a city for a. And by the way, I have the smallest land mass of any state senate.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us, is there any rumor, is it going to kind of stay like that? Or is there plans to change it? Or can you change it?
Of course, I've been sworn to secrecy, and I do like to keep my word, and I promise that I would keep it a secret. I will tell you this, that it will look differently than it does now. And just because
the population has shifted, it has to change.
So it has to look.
So you're 65,000, you said,
That's
per
right,
senator.
Per senator. Yeah.
Oh, that's the number. That's what you guys get.
Right.
So you can't have all of Nashua.
Can't have it. That's right. Even if you wanted it.
You have 3/4 of it, though,
that's right.
probably.
But so we will divide it up accordingly. But let's face it, it just never looks the way it does 10 years from.
Do you have to keep within a boundary of a town or a ward?
No, you do not.
You can split a ward or split a town?
You can't. I don't think we can split a ward. I know we won't split a ward.
Okay.
But we can add a ward to a town.
Let's take last the election that you won. I mean, you split a district, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had just Ward 8 in part of the super district
right.
that I'm in, which is, you're my senator.
Right.
But Luther had 5 and 9.
Right.
And
So
that was District 26.
that's right. So it was kind of odd. In fact, whoever, I'm told, and this may be just rumor, but I was told by a former senator who was in it a long time ago, that they actually, when they created my district, they basically said, well, it's a Democratic district. What we carved out, we'll just give it to the Dems every time. I mean, we expect the Dems to win, and Dems being Democrats, of course, but we expect the Democrats to win that district all the time, and we'll just carve it out. And you give 1, 2, 5, and 9 to whoever was in Howard, Brookline, and Mason. So.
See, that's the thing, too. There is a saying, elections have consequences, but the part that cracks me up about it is that that's how politics works. I mean, if the Democrats were in charge right now, they'd be getting the same type of emails and all the different. That's why you fight so hard in a redistricting election, a la Barney Frank. That's why he's not running again. They redistricted him for what, 350,000 different people or something.
He doesn't have Fall River anymore, which is, of course, was a big base of his.
Wow.
But you're right. I mean, hey, look. Whenever they were in charge, they got to do this, or whoever was in charge got to do it. And that's our task. That's our job. We've been given this job, and we have to do it. It's not like we want to do it. It's there. So.
Yeah, and if you do something really outrageous anyways, and they'd shoot it down.
That's right. And like I said, no matter what we do, unfortunately, and I'm a lawyer, but unfortunately there'll probably be some litigation over it. Because, like I say, not everybody's going to be happy. So.
Yeah, the last one... I know everyone that has been around is so paranoid, trying not to let that happen again, because essentially what happens is, which I don't know how you'd get around it, the courts then redistrict for you.
That's right, and we're going to do everything we can to avoid that. That's right.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, too, in the House, but obviously it depends on a point of view. I mean, we had the constitutional amendment in, 2006?
2006.
Where every town that had at least 3291 would get their own rep, but then you had to balance it with the total in the county, because we segregated the counties, and that was because the reps that are elected in a county serve as the executive board for the county in monitoring their budget process. So that's another limitation we had. So there's 3 or 4 limitations, and you try to balance them, and it's almost impossible.
That's right.
I mean,
it's a lot of hard work, and you've put in a lot of hard work.
That amendment that they did, that's what's giving us all the trouble.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, do you really need, like, I don't even know if Nashua needs 27 reps to begin with, but that's a whole other story. But do you really need, when you get some of these rural towns that, that 3,291 is spread out over a long ways. So do you really need all those reps like that? But that's what the rule says, so you got to follow it.
That's right. But, hey.
So what was the, if you had to say, what was your biggest surprise, let's say, in the Senate this year?
The biggest surprise is how I think you hear about all this partisan bickering, and I said there was very little in the Senate. I think it's just because we're smaller. And, well, there's 19 of us, too. 19 Republicans and 5 Democrats. But I just thought we all got along very well. And, people talk about gridlock in D.C. Well, there was no gridlock, even within the House and in the Senate. I mean, I guess that's the good thing about it. I tell people, if you don't want gridlock, then elect it. If the majority is in charge, we're going to get things done. So you may not like what we did, but nobody can accuse us of not getting things done. I know in the beginning, people were saying, pay attention to the budget, pay attention to the economy. Now we were. Of course, it took some time to run that through committee, but we came out with a great budget. You may not like it, but we put a lot of hard work into it, the House and the Senate. and we got it done. And we cut spending like we promised the voters we would do, balanced it responsibly, and everybody was screaming that the sky was going to fall when it happened. Hasn't fallen yet. So.
Yeah, and you even look at things like we did the Salvation Army thing. You did it with us this weekend, and they set a record at the shows we're at. So you look at all the different things, and when people really want to get out and help, they can. And I think we created this entitlement society that we got to get away from.
Right. And like we made a promise to voters, all of us did basically the same promise. We kept it. So who can blame us for doing that? If you may not like what we did, but that's not what the majority wanted us to do.
Well, I think people might also forget that some of the stuff that we have done is to get more businesses into the state. And by doing that, we spread the base. So we don't have to raise the tax rate, but we get more income. And I think we'll see after this year this results of some of the things that we've been doing. And there are still a lot more to be done.
And just one thing I want to touch upon is my number one issue when I ran, and I know you gentlemen both mentioned it during your campaign and probably in various levels of interest, whatever, was jobs. And I'm happy to report that from the time that I took over to the present, the unemployment has gone down in New Hampshire. Okay, so we're still not where we should be and where I would like to be, but I think that shows us that what we're doing is moving in the right direction. Okay, where the U.S. economy and the jobless rate is kind of stuck there, we're making progress and we're making an impact. So I think what we're doing is the right thing.
And that's why I believe so much in not only the 10th Amendment, but having states be individual. Because if you don't like it, like they say, vote with your feet.
Right.
Either come here because you like it or get out because you don't. And if you try to be like everybody else, then that's when you get in trouble. And that's what we were trying to do for a long time, I think. Right. And once you see, it's like raising a kid. If you're not firm now and again, then
that's right.
They keep breaking a toy and you give them a new one.
There has to be fiscal discipline. I think
well, just think, Carl, like I tell people, just think if the rest of the country ran their business, or their state or the United States the way we do. Do you realize what kind of great shape we would be in?
Oh, yeah.
If New Hampshire everybody copied New Hampshire?
Well, I mean, it's like always. It's no question to me. It's entitlement. Entitlement is just really, it has to be reevaluated.
Well, it's a mindset too, Pete, as you probably know. I mean, I come across so many people during the course of my business as well as my job up at the State House where they just feel like, what do you mean I can't have it, I had a town hall just a couple of weeks ago. I won't say who was there or who was saying it, but there were just a lot of people there who were saying, you can't take that away from us. And I'm like, where do you want me to get the money from? And there's this mindset that the state can do whatever it wants. It has as much. It can spend as much as it wants, and that's not the case.
You wonder how it got to that. Yeah, I mean, most people.
Long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Right? It's been a long time, but most people have some type of responsibility in their life where they know they can't do that. But it's true. It doesn't matter if it's state, federal, local. They just think, well, they'll take care of it.
That's right. And even though they have to live within the budget, they somehow think that the state does it because if you talk to a lot of those folks and you dig down deep, what they're thinking is, well, let him pay for it, let her pay for it, as long as I don't have to pay for it. Like I never forget when I know you like both of you guys like door-to-door, and I haven't gone door-to-door with you, but Pete, I've gone door-to-door with you, and we're all very passionate about it. But I remember going door-to-door to this one place, and the fellow jumped out, and he goes, you Republican or Democrat? I go, Republican. You could tell he was already mad. He goes, you see that guy across the street? He pays the same property tax that I do, the same house, but he makes more than I do. And that's unfair. And my comment is, you live in the same house, same type of house. If you don't like the property tax, then find a house that's less expensive. But that's the way it works. But that's what you come up against.
You mentioned before that there's like no gridlock, so I can't tell you there's been some, but very few votes that we've taken that don't go party lines. Like we sat here in this amendment on Tuesday on this bill.
Redistricting.
Yeah, there was 14 different amendments brought up by one person, but every single one was party lines.
Right.
Every single one.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't happen in the Senate?
Actually, it depends what you're talking about. You'd be surprised. The budget was clearly partisan, clearly party lines. The fixing the retirement system was clearly party lines. Anytime you, I hate to say it, get along the union.
Well, the pension system.
The pension system, yeah. Although I'm thinking about right to work, and I think we had 3 Republican senators vote against right to work, as I recall. So I will say that you'd be surprised on the various issues of people going back and forth. I mean, you take a guy like me, too, where I caught some flack on the RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That was certainly more of a Democrat-supported thing than a Republican-supported thing. But I think there were 3 senators there that also, went with the Democrats on that.
Yeah, but the Democrats never go with us.
Well, not too often. I'm trying to think of a time. But actually, there were some votes that were nonpartisan. It escapes me what they were because there weren't that many, I know.
Well, I think we focused on a couple, 3, 4, maybe 5 main items that we wanted to push through as a party. Right. And I think that's where we came into, we got most of those through. Right. But there was the right to work was one that wasn't enough to get an override. Right. Enough for the majority, but not for the override.
And we barely had enough for an override in the House, in the Senate.
Yeah.
I think we had 17.
Right.
So it's just the way it goes.
We'll see what happens this year and see what happens in the election.
That's right.
I mean, the people, the ones that are going to decide whether we did a good job or not. And hopefully our program will try to give them a little bit of education on what really happened up there instead of depending on the local newspaper or the TV.
No, I agree.
Well, we'll get back into that in a minute because there's some more things we want to bring up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our guest, Senator Gary Lambert. We'll be right back, everybody. Well, welcome back, everybody. Again, we're here with Senator Gary Lambert, and maybe we can lighten things up a little bit, unless you're the deer, obviously. But Senator Lambert is an avid hunter.
I am.
So where'd you go this time?
Well, first of all, I really only deer hunt. I used to do other things, but my wife is very understanding, and but I focus in on white-tailed deer, and that's my favorite thing to do. Actually, my favorite pastime. I started out in Illinois this year, bow hunting for whitetail out there. Ended up with a 10-pointer, first day hunting, and he tastes good because I had him made into beef jerky, salami, Italian sausage. So if you like all those type of things, I've got some, and you guys are certainly welcome to them if you want them. And then I shot a nice 6-pointer in Senator Ray White's district, which is New Boston. Then I moved up to Maine, tracked a big one up there. Unfortunately, wasn't able to connect. That's why they call it hunting and not shooting. But I had a great time. It was a great fall, and just capped off a great year, being up there in the Senate. Looking forward to another year, but it was a fantastic year.
Didn't you, last year, would you go like Montana or something?
I went to Iowa and shot the biggest buck of my life on the 13th of December, which coincidentally I have District 13. And but that was the biggest buck of my life.
So that's right after you got elected.
Right after I got elected, that's right. In fact, the thing about running in that election year cycle, you miss bow season, which starts on the 15th of September. Then, you go up to the election, you miss a little bit of firearm season in there, so I got in the truck and went out to Iowa in December, and was really fortunate to get one out there.
So what are you looking forward to in the Senate this coming year, 2012? What's your big objective?
The big objective, of course, is to bring unemployment down even farther. I know we can't control it directly, but I think a lot of things we do will help that, like continue to find ways to help businesses, deregulate, help them on tax-wise. So anything we can do to help businesses and bring businesses into this state, especially, let's face it, we represent a border city here, a border town, and like people complain about the cigarette tax or whatever, but listen, my constituents, my businesses came to me and they said, this is going to help business. So it may not have a direct impact on revenue sources, but anything we can do to bring the folks from Mass, Maine, and Vermont into our state, that's what I'm going to try to do. And in addition to that, I'm going to look for new revenue sources that do not include, of course, raising any taxes and raising any fees. A pet bill I've got out there, and I think I'm the perfect guy to bring it, is to bring out a Patriots plate. And the reason why I want that, I watch maybe 2 football games a year. I'm a Pats fan only because who isn't? But this, if we get that plate, the proposal is to charge $40 for it. $20 goes to the state coffers. $20 goes to charities within this state. And I think it's a no-brainer, no lose situation. I know I'm going to come up against some flack from those who say, well, we've never done it, or we've always done it this way. But I'm out for new revenue sources, and so that's one of my...
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. I don't either, but some people do. I've encountered them already.
But they're just saying just because we haven't done it?
We haven't done it, and we're not like other states. I know we've got the moose plates, and we've got some other type of veterans plates, but we've got some park plates, I guess, that are out there as well. But they claim that that's enough for public safety concerns or whatever. People need to know what a New Hampshire license plate looks like. I don't buy into that. And like I say, I think as Republicans, we need to do it all. I mean, that's why we are who we are. So yes, we don't want to increase taxes, we don't want to increase fees, but that doesn't mean we don't want new revenue through other sources. And that's why I'm waiting to see what comes out with the limited gambling.
I was going to say that's
right. So I must bring it up, and so I'm all ears and I'm open-minded, and I think I'm going to be for some form of limited gambling in the state. Because why say no?
Well, I think one of the things we have to be careful of is that it's not just aimed at certain locations. We want to open it up, and we want to make sure the rules and regulations are in place that keep it a safe operation. You don't want to get into some of these situations that people are afraid of. And I think we can do that.
Are you getting constituent mail yet on gambling?
Not too much, just a little bit. That'll probably pick up onesie twosies, but both ways.
Yeah, I haven't gotten anything yet, but again, the bill's not out there.
I've gotten a couple, but the bill is in the House will be discussed in January. And there's one thing that I haven't really studied enough is the 20-page amendment to the bill.
Wow.
So there, it supposedly outlines all the specifics. They take care of a lot of these worries that people are afraid of, what gambling could bring. But with gambling, with lottery,
well, that's
with
just it.
Charities,
and it's working out pretty well for the charities.
As long as you control it.
I'm pretty sure we had the first lottery in the country.
I think we did it called the sweepstakes. Remember? I remember when I was a kid, when we came up here. I'm not from New Hampshire originally, but I remember coming up and seeing sweepstakes for sale. So
I actually voted against the last gambling bill, but only because of it was just not a good bill.
Yeah.
But I still am for the premise of it, especially the destination resort that we could have over here.
I think that'd be nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
The bill wasn't written very well.
Remember, Carl and I used to sit next to each other in the house last year, and it was a Democrat actually that did it, because this is not a partisan thing.
Right.
There's as many Republicans for it as against it, and the other way around. You cannot say. This
one party or the other.
It's not. It really isn't.
Is against it.
It's a weird bill. I was talking to Ovid actually on the radio show about it a couple of weeks ago, and he's seeing the same thing.
Right.
But whoever it was, you might remember. I don't know if they're even there anymore. But it was a woman. She came out and did her floor speech, and she took out she had a stack of papers, and she said this was the New Jersey bill or whatever it was, and this was the Massachusetts bill, and here was ours.
Wow.
And it was all for the guys from Vegas, and that's scary in its own right. So this one, I understand, is done a lot better. I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet, but
I haven't either. And of course, in a lot of cases, we wait for you guys to do our work for us over in the Senate. And
what's the feeling in the Senate? Is it with your colleagues?
That's a good question, because I think it's all over the map. I know you take Senator D'Alessandro, who's a Democrat, as much as for it. I know there's other Republicans that are for it, including myself. I think you're going to find, especially the folks on the border towns are going to be maybe more interested in that. We haven't really caucused about it yet. We might first of the year, but I hope we can do something, because I think we should always be the party of being, the listeners, and not everything's black and white, and gambling's not black and white. It's to be. I don't think you can be for or against gambling. It's well, tell me where we can meet in the middle, come up for come up with something that'll make everybody happy, or try to make everybody happy.
What I'm going to be faced with as soon as I get back is gay marriage repeal.
Yep.
So I'm getting the letters on that right now.
I am too.
And they're going to get worse.
Right.
So what's the feeling in the Senate on that?
That's a good question, and I can tell you that there are varying views depending upon where you're at. Even I think within the Republican caucus, you'll see different views. You know, my view is very simple, and I think making it complicated only makes it more difficult to get my point across. I'm just a traditional marriage guy. I believe marriage, the definition of marriage, is a man and a woman. I also believe, and I've told this to my constituents or whoever has written in, I believe marriage is a sacrament. You know, for faith reasons, I believe that was a sacrament within my religion. And so I have a difficult time thinking outside that box. And you are a product of who you are, and that's where I stand.
Even outside religion, it's been a tradition for so long.
Right.
And I don't see why we have to give up something when somebody else wants it. You know, fine. Other people want to get together, and the civil unions were put together for that purpose. Right. And I think, you know, those are the types of things there. People, especially some of the elderly, that might want to live together, might want to have legal responsibility or legal being able to attend certain things in the hospital or whatever. And the civil unions could cover all that.
I agree.
I think you can have those two operating, but marriage still, in my mind, is a man and a woman.
The thing is refreshing today, we're looking at Nashua Catholic for Aaron.
Right.
So,
great school, by the way.
Your kids go there?
Yeah, Catherine graduated from there. She's now at BG. Grace is at St. Chris, and we'll go there after St. Chris. So.
But just going in there today where, you know, he's talking about the morning prayer, and I mean, you know, you see crucifixes, and it's just, who's that hurting? You don't have to go there.
Actually, it's not it's not even a hurting issue, Pete. It's helping.
I believe
that thing helps society. I mean, if you take a look at, you know, a lot of those kids that go there, they do great things for society. Grace was ringing the bells. I know your family was ringing the bells down there at the Salvation Army. That's what we teach them. Charity is good. Working to help those who are in need is good, and that's what Christ did when he was here. So you can't go wrong practicing, you know, those tenets.
There are a lot of groups too that are doing it. I guess you run into that with your Health and Human Services committee. Sometimes I think there are a little too many of those there because they're not as organized, they're not as focused as they should be, and it might be more efficient if they were. And that's something I think we ought to look into.
No, that's a good point. And it's funny you should mention that, because I talked to, I'm a member of National Road, and I talked to someone there, and there's a movement afoot with the United Way to kind of organize, get the admin, the back office for the admin for all these. I believe we have 480 some charities in Nashua, or the greater Nashua area.
Well, I know there's a meeting of at least close to 100 of them once every other month, I think it is.
So anything we can do to help them and coordinate and get the admin piece of that. Because let's face it, when you contribute to a charity, nobody wants to contribute to a charity to know it's going to the admin. They want a direct impact on the end user. So anything we can do to eliminate admin costs is a good thing.
United Way they started that whole thing. Yeah. Remember that back in the probably the early '80s. The guy was making like $650,000 a year, and he got I forget what he did. That's why I love the Salvation Army.
Right.
The Salvation Army they've been tried and true through all the years.
They really have.
And you go there and you know they're not spending it on, you know, plush furniture and fancy cars. They're giving it back to the people.
I think it's just a great spirit of Christmas when you hear those bells anywhere. You know, that's basically, we all grew up with that.
Absolutely.
It's a great tradition, and I love doing it. And I'm so happy that the Republican City Committee got involved in that. We broke a record down at Shores.
Very good.
For collecting that money. So
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we're going to have a problem with gay marriage in the House, though, because of all the libertarians.
Right.
And that's the thing with people. I try to say it as much as I can so people understand this whole veto thing, because most people don't understand, unless you're like a civics geek, how the whole thing works. You know, what do you mean? You guys passed it.
Right.
but to get, it's so hard to get, 67% of the people to vote your way, as we did see with Right to Work. So I'm not sure what's going to happen on it. We're going to give it a shot and go at it. I mean, I know I'm going to support the repeal, but it's, as they say too, it's a lot harder to take back a law than it is to make one.
Yeah, it's you're right, because if you do look at some of the polling, I don't know if it's correct or not, but apparently the polling is you ask the average person in the state that doesn't have same-sex marriage, and the polling is that they don't want it. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason they indicate that the polling indicates that once it's there, people don't want to repeal. So people don't like laws being changed. They like, I guess, the status quo.
Well, that was something, though. Originally, the civil union was put into law, and then it was repealed when they were going to make something better. And instead of that, they came out with the marriage. See, and I don't think that was an appropriate way of doing it.
That's why I'll throw in a political plug for my guy Perry. He had that ad, I don't know if you saw it, a couple of weeks ago, where he came out, it's kind of controversial, it's out in Iowa, and he said, something's wrong when gays can serve openly in the military, but our kids can't say Merry Christmas, or the word Christmas in school. And I ran the first time, and I ran the second time, and as long as I run, I'll still say the same thing. Politically correctness and secularism is what's killing this country. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of clever people out there, clever political activist groups that know that. That's why you have a guy named Obama in the White House right now. Mm. The supporters knew that he could hide behind his skin color, which is amazing to me, because last I checked, his mother is white, so she doesn't count anymore because they don't need her, which is wild. But that's what he did. And I said it before, I knew right away when Sarah Palin came out, and she came out swinging, everything was great. Once McCain shut her up, it was all over. He had a lead in the polls when she first joined him.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he had a big bounce.
And she was going after everybody. Right. Because there's nothing is politically incorrect about telling the truth. Mm-hmm. If you did something wrong, you did something wrong.
Well, that's why, the way I was raised, my father said, I'll never hit you if you tell me the truth. If you lie to me, so as long as I told him the truth, no matter what I did, that's how the discipline was in the house, So, but if you lie to him, look out, you better start hiding, because he was coming.
Well, before we forget, what else is the real hot bills that we could look forward to in the Senate? Well,
everybody has their own pet peeves. I know Senator Jim Forsyth has got an educational bill out there that involves a tax credit for, in fact, I think the House has got a co-sponsor already. Yeah. I mean, there's some co-sponsors in the House.
A tax credit for
tax credit for education.
You mean going to
a private school?
Private schools.
So like a voucher in a sense.
Almost like a voucher. And, I'm for that as well. I'm very fortunate to be able to afford to send my children to private school. I feel very bad for those parents that are unsatisfied with their school district, unsatisfied with their teachers, and there's nothing they can do about it. So anything I can do to help that, I think I'm certainly going to listen to. And we're just going to continue down the same stream, which is to help businesses. That's the general mantra. I mean, if you go to the Senate website, I don't know about you folks in the House, but you can click on any senator, and you can see what bills he's sponsored, he or she has sponsored, what our voting record is. And so I encourage anyone to go there and take a look at that.
I think there's a lot of transparency in what's available up there in Concord. And we try to help by putting some of it, as you know, on our committee website. Right. We highlight some of the bills, when the committee hearings are, when the votes are. So people can look at the NashuaGOP.org website for some of that information.
Yeah, I know that in Judiciary, that's probably the big one coming up for us, but in the House in general, it's pretty much the same thing. We already did the budget. Now we have to go after I believe there's like 800 bills, though, right?
Yeah. Well, there's like 150 that we had retained.
Right.
And there was at least close to 800 new ones.
We have 75 in judiciary.
Really?
Wow.
I'm fortunate in mine.
Actually, it brings to mind one bill that I am going to support, and I forget, is it Ray White? I forget who's the prime sponsor on it, to bring the Senate into a biennial session, where we only meet once every 2 years.
That's how they used to do it.
That's how they used to do it, and the state ran just fine. In fact, many would argue it ran better. Because I think we all ran on less government is better philosophy.
That's
so
right.
why all these bills and why all these things? So
I think it's a fantastic idea.
and not only that, I mean, we're all, let's face it, we're all citizen legislators up there. But for those of us who are not as fortunate to be retired, Carl, like you, and we have jobs to do like Peter and I have to do, that's a great, that allows us to do that. And
Yeah,
that
you draw
allows
more
others
people.
to get in. You know, draw more people into the business, which is what we want.
I agree with
again,
you.
look at Texas. It's the 13th largest economy in the free world, and there's
They meet
only
every other year.
140 of them. They meet every other year.
I lived in Texas for 5
Did
years,
you?
so
Wow.
yeah.
They balance the budget every year. So I mean,
Right.
there's no question. You know, obviously that's not our problem. Here's what we get paid, but
Right.
you should not be a career politician.
That's right.
If you
right.
do like we do and you're a career volunteer, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
You know, that doesn't really bother me because you're not making anything off it. But to get some of these perks these guys are getting, I mean, look at the stuff we go through. Now you've been inside government. I tell people I never realized there's people that'll cut your throat for free what we do. Imagine if you paid them.
That's right. and that's the beautiful thing about the job we do, because I turn to people, first of all, you know, I forget, I don't know what you have in the house, but you can only give me a maximum of $1,000 for the general election. So if you think $1,000 is going to buy off any senator up there, you're sadly mistaken.
That's true. Yeah.
And I got that's one of you mentioned surprises up there, because you always hear about this corruption in politics and people being swayed and lobbyists being bad people. Hey, I've never met a senator yet who didn't vote completely on his or her conviction, on what he or she believed in. I don't recall. I mean, I've never seen it. I've never seen a lobbyist sway anybody. Actually, they're great sources of education.
I was going to say that they have a lot of information that we don't have, a lot of data, and they don't really put pressure on. Well, at least I haven't had any pressure on it. But they do give you a lot of information. So you have to sort it out, decide whether, you know, they're right or wrong, or whether it's the right answer to the problem. I know one of the problems I see coming up is what we're going to do with our infrastructure. We're still hurting there very much with our roads and bridges and other things. And my committee's on has the 10-year plan, and we got 10-year plan with all sorts of things on it, but probably only 5 years of money. So what sense does that make? What do we do? Because we do have to fix these things. I think it's one of the advantages that New Hampshire has. It generally has good roads, but it's not going to be good if we keep this up for another 5 years. I'm
so naive. My very first, of course, I could have paid more attention to it, but back in February, it actually made the papers. We went on I thought it was a border tour with Canada and the U.S. to show how each of us do, you know, get along together, security. And then we went up through Pittsburgh, and then we were supposed to go to that station, and then into Montreal, and tour the St. Lawrence, that whole Port Authority thing, which is that's pretty amazing, actually. Well, part of the stop was who paid for it. The Canadian government picked us up in a bus, though, and we went to Hydro-Quebec. So I didn't even realize that till we're halfway up there, that what we were doing. So now on the way up there, we decided to go on a day of basically a blizzard, and you're in a bus. So we pick up the guys in Colebrook, and then we didn't even go to Pittsburgh because it was so bad. We're going up a hill, and the bus got stuck. So it was so bad that we had to all get up. There was, I don't know, 30 people, maybe 25 people in it. Go to the back of the bus to put weight in the wheels, and the wheels are burning so much, the whole cabin filled with tire smoke. So we finally were probably 3 or 4 hours late on the trip because it was just an overnight thing. So we're going to go to dinner, and the Canadian, the Canadian government's paying for it, obviously. We had our ambassador was there, or our consulate member. So we don't even put coats on because the bus picks you up. We get it, so you're going to drop it right off of the thing, so no big deal. It's in February.
Right.
Well, the bus driver didn't know where he was going, gets stuck. So now all the ladies are in high heels, walking down these cobblestone streets with no coats on. So now, by then, I'm mad, So we get into the place, we go sit down, and you can have wine that they had, but I wanted a martini. I couldn't even get a martini.
That's my drink.
I finally said, hey, you know what? If this is your idea of paying me off, man, you're not doing a very good job. I'm going to be bought for a lot more than this. Can you guys get it going over here or what? But I don't see any of that.
No,
I really don't.
And I guess, it's hard to tell the public that because they see a lot of that DC business, which I guess is different. And but you're right. I mean, I'm just amazed at the character, the level of character of all the people I see up there. And that's probably why they're volunteering to do what we do. But nobody's in it for the money.
Obviously I'm not a huge Democrat fan, but at least they believe in what they're doing. I don't have to agree with it.
Right.
But they believe in this
They
is
really
what
do.
they should be doing. That's why they do it. So.
And I say this, and I know I may get some criticism, but they're really deep down. At least the Democratic senators, they're really nice people. They really mean well. It's just they differ on how we need to get there. I mean, but they have great intentions. It's just they're on the wrong side of the issue with respect to like the budget and everything.
You just have so much history to show you that social government doesn't work. Where has it worked? If they could show me one example of a society that lived even for 100 years,
even the state,
based on that, even the state.
Look at like California, they're broke. Like I tell people,
New York.
So what do you want us to do? Do you want us to, come in with an income tax, a sales tax, and just keep spending and spending, and you think things are really going to get that better? They're not. It's going to get worse.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about socialism was that it's all right until you run out of other people's money.
Yeah, I think that was Margaret Thatcher, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that this is the election right here. There's so much at stake with this thing that especially in the healthcare side of things, if he gets back in, all those things have to go into play in 2014. I actually went down to Washington, D.C. To see Senator Ayotte about 2 or 3 weeks ago about my industry. Part of the Obama healthcare bill, there's this thing called PODS, which is an acronym for physician-owned distributorships. Like in my industry, about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, there was Chris Christie actually was the U.S. attorney that did it. They put a whole stop in the way we did business. Like we used to take them to ski trips, and we can't even take them to dinner anymore. But with this loophole they found, the surgeon can actually buy the implants from not the major companies, from these, second, third, fourth tier companies, and then in turn sell it to the hospital and keep the money on it. So when you talk about corruption, they no longer decide what's best to put in you, but what do you think they're going to do if they make an average of around $1,000 from the Medicare to put the thing in, or the reimbursement from the insurance company, but they can make another $2,000 or on the implant itself? You think they're going to say, what are they going to do? You're getting this, pal.
Hey, money drives a lot of things, and you got to follow the money.
It was crazy, but again, there's a Senate committee that's already looking into it down there, but they looked into it just from the medical side of things. So the AMA goes and says, there's no problem.
Yeah.
And I told you guys what I do with, for years going into surgery. You're going to be nuts to go for this stuff. Yeah. But when we told Senator Ayotte, she had no idea.
Yeah.
So now she's looking into it, and you just, it's so important that if this thing goes forward, the corruption will go on.
Well, sometimes it's not even corruption. Sometimes it's laziness. I was in pharmaceuticals manufacturing, and we had to deal with the government, and I had to deal with the lobbying firm that we had to tell the story of how they, because a lot of the information they have, wherever they dig it up, they don't dig up the correct information. And so, for reimbursement, they want to know what's your average selling price or something like that. And they get these lists, and we look at it and say, where'd you get that? You know, that's nowhere near what is actual. And we had a problem too, because we were dealing with radioactive material, which decayed with time. So, you know, you could be selling it at this price, but if you don't use it right away, you only can have half of it left the next, you know, in the afternoon.
Right. Wow.
So it's a little bit difficult for some of those people. They don't bother to try to understand as much as they should.
See, that's where I think lobbying comes in. It may not be corrupt, but if you are a better lobbyer than the other side is, that's the information they're going to get.
Right.
And, you know, it depends. It's not always like lavish gifts and everything like that, but it's just who does their homework, who, you know, like anything else, you know, you're in law, not every law firm is, that's why people get paid more to represent you.
But like I said, with respect to lobbyists, I've found them to be very helpful. It's not a dirty name up there to me. It's a very helpful name because, as you all know, we don't have staff. We don't have people to do all this work for us, so we need to get an education somewhere.
Well, I don't think people realize that either.
No, I know
that you don't have a large staff.
I know.
I
Well,
mean,
because a state senator in Mass apparently has 9 people working for him
it's unbelievable.
and makes $70 grand a year.
Yeah.
So you got that kind of staff, and you can do a lot of things. But if you don't, you got to make do, and that's the New Hampshire way.
Yeah.
You make do.
I mean, we don't. The representatives don't have an office. We have a drawer in our committee room.
That's right.
That was about it.
Well, the first thing Senator Bragdon did is cut our budget by 25%. I mean, I share a secretary with 2 other senators. And
we should probably say, for the people who don't know, to continue a little bit of our civics lesson, the senators make just as much a whopping salary as we do, the $100 a year.
that's right.
And
Before taxes.
when you tell people that, I say it all the time as a joke, when I talk to people from you know, other parts
places,
of the country, you know, what do you think a senator makes? 50 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand? You're close. You're off by 990,000. We're almost out of time, so is there anything that we forgot to do? Is there anything else you want to bring up, Senator? We want to,
No,
we'll have you on again, of course.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate it. But yeah, for those out there that want to know how I'm voting and what I'm doing, you can go to the Senate website, or you can go to lambertnhsenate.com, which is my campaign site. Haven't updated it too much just because I've been busy working.
That is something else. Yeah, we don't have a staff to keep
No,
our,
if you want,
our Twitter, our Facebook.
well, that's just it.
Any
If
of
you want to update your constituency, I got to get on there myself. I mean, I had a guy working in my campaign when I ran, but he was working for nothing, and now he's working for Senator Ayotte. So it's me. But
That's the same
I
problem.
forgot to look him up when I was down there. I forgot all about that. I don't know if and I didn't see him. We went to the House floor. They got this cool little monorail they have.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty neat when you're on that. But anyways, it looks like we're out of time again. It's always a pleasure being with you, Carl, and thank you for coming in, Senator.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and hopefully we can do it again. Always a pleasure talking to you guys. I'll see you up at the State House.
Okay.
We'll be over there.
And we're on a regular schedule now.
And we'll be back next week with a couple more senators, maybe. Who knows? But we're going to start trying to get in before too long some of these primary candidates. If you know, once they leave Iowa, they'll be talking to us. So have a great holiday, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.